answered in today's edition of Dateline. All this after the hard news segment. Welcome to Dateline. Babatunde Bolatito is my name. First, the hard news segment. The Independent National Electoral Commission has said it will not support any candidate or political party in the forthcoming elections, as it is only interested in the success of the electoral process. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said this when he addressed supervisory presiding officers for the 2023 general elections in Abuja. Professor Yakubu said, Professor Yakubu urged election officers on neutrality, urging them not to see their job as service to INEC, but to the country as a whole, in which they are equal stakeholders. Professor Yakubu described the work of the supervisory presiding officers as critical to the success of the 2023 general elections, urging them to uphold the integrity of the process. The chairman of INEC ordered that election officers at the polling unit are collating results from the polling units. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will deploy 300 supervisory presiding officers in Osun State for the February 25 and March 11 elections. The State President Electoral Commissioner of INEC, Dr. Mutiu Agbuki, stated this while speaking to newsmen on the sideline of the two-day training organized for supervisory presiding officers in Osogbo by the Commission. According to him, the supervisory officers will be in charge of training and retraining of ad hoc staff, adding that they are also responsible for the deployment of ad hoc staff to their various polling units on the day of election. Dr. Agbuki warned them against being compromised by politicians to subvert these elections, saying any of them caught sabotaging the elections for politicians will be prosecuted and jailed, vowing to take it up personally to prosecute any electoral officer found culpable in subverting the election in Osun State. He said the biometric voter accreditation system BVAS machine remains sacrosanct for the coming elections, and that many politicians are afraid of BVAS, stressing that with the use of BVAS, INEC will ensure that elections were only won on the strength of popularity and acceptability. Barely 2 weeks to go, and with increasing uncertainties around the 2023 general elections, the federal government has again assured that it will leave no stone unturned and nothing to chance in ensuring that the exercise is held in a peaceful atmosphere. Speaking at the passing out ceremony of Batch 33 at the Nigerian Navy Basic Training School in Onne River State, Minister of Defense, retired Major General Bashir Magashi, disclosed that the federal government has planned to afoot secure every nook and cranny of the country and thwart hoodlums' attempts to disrupt the election. The assurance came as the United Nations called on the political parties to shun violence while stressing the need to mainstream the sustainable development goals in their manifestos. At a recent roundtable with representatives of 10 registered political parties set to participate in the election, the UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria, Matthias Shimali, called on political parties to work towards credible, transparent and peaceful elections in the country. The step of the Supreme Court nullifying the right of Machina to sue the incumbent Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, as a constructive legal justification which can stand the test of time. A former chairman, Nigeria Bar Association of Osun State, Mr. Awuniyi Alabi, disclosed this while speaking to OSBC News. The lawyer, who was national officer of the Law Association and a lecturer, also threw his weight behind the nullification of judgment of the Federal High Court and Court of Appeal that right the candidacy of Bashir Machina for the post of the Senate. He speaks.
The judgment of the Supreme Court. Well, my interpretation of it is simply, this is a question of politics and law. on a collision course. So the Supreme Court is right. The two lower courts are wrong. The Federal Court was wrong to have entertained that matter. The Court of Appeal was wrong to have confirmed what the Federal Court did, because originating summons was not the appropriate process to approach the court in that kind of issue. Because there are facts, there are even allegations of fraud. Even in normal civil cases in court, be it land matter, be it defamation, or any other thing, once you raise the issue of fraud, you are raising the issue of a crime, and there are different types of standard of proof for civil case, for criminal case. Once you raise the issue of fraud, you are talking about crime. And so, there is a higher burden on you. The proof must be beyond reasonable doubt.
Barrister Awuni Alabi speaking there. As part of efforts to prevent the vandalization of bank property due to the scarcity of new Naira notes, the Bayelsa State Police Command has promised to ensure adequate security in banks and automated teller machines across the state. Bayelsa State Police Command, Ben Nabolisa Okolo, ordered divisional police officers and other policemen to be observant and watch out for miscreants, while warning residents of the state to shun any form of violence and destruction of property. According to the CP, Nabolisa Okolo, miscreants under any guise are hereby being warned to desist from carrying out any unlawful assembly to unleash violence in the state, as the command will not allow any person or persons or group of persons to truncate the relative peace being enjoyed in the state. What all Nigeria expects from the central bank governor and the federal government is in line with the order of the Supreme Court to make more currencies or allow the coexistence of the new Naira notes and old ones going into extinction to alleviate the sufferings of the users. A financial expert, Alhaji Dauda Adebisi, dropped a hint shortly after featuring an OSBC current affairs program Saturday Morning Treat. He speaks further.
We are saying as members of the public is that if he can't print 500 and 1,000 denomination, let him print 100 naira and 50 naira denominations to serve the public. And if eventually, he mentioned something. He said they have made a request for more paper to be supplied to the mint to be able to print much money, and that it's going to take a long time before the paper comes in. So definitely, one would have expected that the CBN governor should come out, that the new money and the old money should coexist until they are able to print more money into the circulation.
Alhaji Adebisi enjoined the people to calm down and desist from embarking on any activity that may truncate the peaceful coexistence of our people, saying the hardship came and shall subside in no distant time. He speaks further. Now to another story. The federal government has been called upon not to retain but sustain subsidy on premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, which is the only benefit accruable to all Nigerians irrespective of status. As social critic Comrade Wadley Uyini made his call while speaking with OSBC News, he disclosed that the hike in price occasioned by fuel scarcity is employed to remove subsidy on the product and a way to add to the suffering of the masses.
Many factors are contributing to it. One of the factors is that the federal government wanted to remove or had removed or has slashed the subsidy. That's the cause. They didn't want to put subsidy into the NNPC, the sole importer of the fuel in Nigeria. And we take crude oil to abroad and they get refined one to Nigeria. They subsidize it. The federal government has either removed completely or slash the subsidy. That's the cost. You know, our refineries do not work. All the refineries are down. They don't work in Nigeria. It's a well-planned something, and the idea of removing subsidy is the main cause. Very negative, extraordinarily negative impact on us. The only thing we can say is to plead with the federal government, Buhari government, to let subsidy stay and then patch the loopholes.
Osun State government remain committed to activities that will bring succor to residents of the state. Chief of Staff to the Governor, Alhaji Kazim Akinleye, stated this at the presentation of relief materials to victims of rainstorm and flooding in Ede. Saheed Adeboje covered the program and our report.
Ede, the country home of Governor Ademola Adeleke, played host to members of the Presidential Committee on Flooding Relief and Rehabilitation. They were there to grace the program where Osun Emergency Management Agency will distribute relief materials to victims of various natural disasters. Speaking at the program, Chief of Staff to Osun State Governor Alhaji Kazim Akinleye noted that the governor, Senator Ademola Adeleke, is highly touched by the natural disasters, including rainstorm that affected the state. Alhaji Akinleye, who was represented by Dr. Sadiq, noted that Governor Adeleke remains committed to the well-being of all. Speaking in the same vein, the General Manager of Osun Emergency Management Agency, Mr. Amos Adejinle, appreciated Governor Ademola Adeleke for always showing concern to programs that will enhance the comfort of the people. Mr. Adejinle noted that the relief materials in terms of food, roofing sheets, and other needs were distributed without political, religious, and tribal inclination. He implored residents of the state to further support the present administration.
I wish to emphasize that the action and intention of the Presidential Committee on Flooding and Rehabilitation in providing these enormous materials for the betterment of our people cannot be emphasized, because it will go a long way in alleviating their sufferings and bringing smile to the faces of suffering masses in this state, and we cannot thank you enough in this regard.
Earlier, the representative of the Director General National Emergency Management Agency, Mr. Saeed Akiyode, implored the beneficiaries of the relief material to use them for the purpose they were meant for. For OSBC News, this is Saeed Adeboje reporting.
The 80th birthday anniversary and Thanksgiving service of the Patriarch of Akodu and Asabidinwin dynasties, Prince Richard Ilelabadi Adeniwale, holds tomorrow at St. Dominic Catholic Church, Ifewara, in Atakumbasa Adeboyega Adeniwale Omoluju Olodumare and Prince Aderemi Komolafe on behalf of Akodu and Asabidinwin dynasties of Ifewara indicates that extended family members, friends and associates of Prince Adeniwale's children and friends of the celebrant are asked to join the celebrant, who is also dedicating the day to God in fasting and prayer till 12 noon for peace, progress, and more achievement for members of the dynasty, Ifewara town, and peace in Nigeria as a whole, while entertainment follows shortly after the Thanksgiving. You are now welcome to our sports segment. Nigerian forward Victor Osimhen is expected to get a new deal after his impressive performances for Napoli have put him on the radar of top clubs in Europe, and the Italian club have no intention of losing their star man. Luciano Spalletti's side are on track to win their first Scudetto since the days of Diego Maradona, this campaign sitting 13 points clear of second place after the 21 games. A key reason for the success has been the incredible work of Osimhen and Vicha Kvaratskhelia, who have scored 24 league goals between them this season, attracting attention from across Europe. Napoli sporting director Cristiano Gulotti has been in contact with representatives of both Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia in recent weeks, keen to ensure that all parties are on the same page. Both Nigerian and Georgian are happy in Campania and have expressed their intention to stay beyond this season despite the various transfer market rumors. And now to foreign stories. Iranian authorities have released journalist Elnaz Mohammadi on bail 1 week after her arrest, but her sister, also a reporter, remains in custody. Elnaz Mohammadi was detained after going to the prosecutor's office for an explanation, but has since been released from Evin prison on bail. Her sister Elia Mohammadi was arrested in September last year after reporting for Amanian from the funeral of Masha Amini's funeral and remains in custody. Reports say Iran has witnessed nationwide protests since the death in custody of Amini, a 22-year-old ethnic Kurd who had been arrested for alleged breach of strict dress rules for women. It added that funeral procession in Amini's hometown of Zakez in Kurdistan province turned into one of the first protest actions, followed by more than 4 months of unrest. That ends the hard news segment. We go to Dateline shortly after a short break. Controversies have continued to trade the release of the redesigned Naira notes, as many have continued to protest and lament that the new notes is not available in automated teller machine ATM and even over the counter in the commercial banks. Those who spoke with OSBC News in separate interviews enjoined the Central Bank of Nigeria to make the currency available for the use of the general public and everyone in the country. In this Dateline report, Oluwatobiloba Dumluga explains the implication of scarcity of the notes on Nigerians as they have continued to lament the untold hardship the scarcity of the Naira has put on them. The reports.
Surrounding scarcity of the newly redesigned Naira notes have become more intense as many begins to wonder how the situation got to turn out this way. The unavailability of the new Naira note and unavailability of commercial banks to put enough cash in automated teller machines, ATMs, as well as over the counter have thrown many into great despair as they have continued to lament the hardship they are facing to get the redesigned currency. According to CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, several billions of Naira of the old notes are still stashed away in people's home, noting that there is need for the Apex Bank to mop up the old currency in circulation.
The management of the CBN has sought and obtained the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari to redesign, produce, release, and circulate new series of banknotes at 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira levels. Will this decision impact the value of the Naira? We suspect that this would happen and that it will positively impact the value of the Naira. As of September 2022, we had 3.23 trillion Naira in circulation. Out of that, 2.73 trillion Naira is outside the vaults of the banks. So first of all, what we want to do is mop all these 3.23 trillion Naira back into the CBN so we can take control of money supply again and begin to see how this will help rein in inflation. No doubt we believe it has positive impact on inflation.
Many have, however, been asking if the central bank decision to mop up the old currency has been effected or the CBN's decision is adding more hardship to the already economic quagmire of the country. According to a financial expert, Mr. David Awotipe, who agreed that the Apex Bank is saddled with the responsibility of overseeing the monetary policy of the country and mopping up excess money in circulation, said if the policy is well implemented, it would help stabilize the value of the Naira and make the job of the CBN easier. Mr. Wotikpa, however, frowned at the implementation of CBN's cashless policy, which he said is inflicting hardship on the masses, most especially as the scarce Naira notes are found in abundance at social events and with POS operators who have increased their charges from 10% to 20% or more on their customers.
The CBN has to do more monitoring on the commercial banks. There has been a lot of allegation that the commercial banks are hoarding or sometimes selling off the new notes, which is not expected. So if the allegation is actually correct, I think the CBN need more monitoring on the commercial banks to ensure that the money are being paid out on the counter and likewise on the ATM machines are new notes. That's the best way we can have to ensure the money gets circulated.
Meanwhile, a Supreme Court ruling recently ordered that the old notes remain in circulation after the deadline date by the CBN, stopping the federal government in an ex parte application brought by 3 northern states of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara. In some states, many were injured and vehicles were vandalized as angry Nigerians stormed the street in protest over scarcity of the new currency. With the nation's current situation, Nigerians continue to besiege banks and markets across the federation, while reports of scarcity ground businesses and normal daily activities of many people, which they describe as infliction of suffering on citizens by the government. Speaking on the development, in separate interviews, respondents, including Messrs. Oyeniyi Raimi and Ayodeji James, said it is no doubt that Nigerians are already contending with the consequences of a good policy made on its implementation procedure by the Central Bank of Nigeria, adding that the policy, if well planned and implemented, will better lots of the people.
For the right reasons, what government is trying to do by sort of reducing the number of currencies in circulation is the right thing. But if you are trying to do the right thing the wrong way, what you're going to have now is what we've got. Yeah, so government needs to go back to the drawing board, look at what can be done to salvage the situation. It is definitely the right policy. When it is well implemented, definitely everybody will be happier for it.
Naira is not in circulations and queues are everywhere. And it's actually brought hardship in lots of people right now. And it's a serious issue. What government should do, I think the old and the new Naira should run concurrently now so that at least life can be easier for people.
They appeal to the federal government to make the currency available in all states of the federation so as to ease the suffering being faced by Nigerians. Oluwa Tobiloba Odunuga, reporting for Dateline.
Do you know that Nigeria ranked 3rd on the global scale of countries engaged in female genital mutilation? Do you also know that anyone caught in the act risks a jail term, as the law prohibiting female genital mutilation has been domesticated in Nigeria? What exactly is female genital mutilation, and what are the dangers in it for women and girls? In this Dateline report, Oluchi Amuda examines the implication of female genital mutilation on the female gender. The report.
Female genital mutilation, FGM, is an age-long practice rooted in deep culture and tradition of some people in different countries of the world, Nigeria inclusive. Some have held on to the myth that uncircumcised girls and women are always promiscuous without scientific backing, as research has proven otherwise.
We have people that have not been mutilated and are not promiscuous. We have people that have been mutilated and they are still promiscuous. The issue of promiscuity is actually a moral question, and each person develops his moral values.
According to the United Nations Population Fund and the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, FGM comprises all procedures that involve altering or injuring the female genitalia for non-medical reasons and is recognized internationally as a violation of the human rights of girls and women. The agencies noted that the prevalence of the legal act was increasing in the world, saying that it might be difficult for the proposed elimination of FGM by 2030 to come to fruition if urgent steps were not taken. A maternal health expert, Dr. Rabiatu Sagia, and a health worker from Osun State Ministry of Health Mrs. Toyin Adelowokan explained that FGM constitutes an extreme form of discrimination against women and girls and violates their rights to health, security, physical integrity, rights to be free from torture, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment, and their right to life when procedure results in death.
Female genital mutilation is actually the partial or complete removal of the female external genitalia for non-medical or for cultural reasons. It comes with it several complications. The immediate complications may include infection, pain while she's passing urine, also her likelihood of having obstructed labor. Obstructed labor also, if not managed promptly, may result in vesicovaginal fistula.
The dangers associated with female genital mutilations are the bleeding is there, the pains, infection can come in, like tetanus, hepatitis, even including HIV/AIDS. And we also have obstetrical risk, which may, that is, it may lead to prolonged or obstructed labor. And we all know the complication of obstructed labor or prolonged labor. So it may lead to vesicovaginal fistula or rectovaginal fistula. It may also lead to fetal and maternal death. That's where we are campaigning against female genital mutilation. It doesn't have any health benefits.
The UNFPA and UNICEF joint program on the elimination of female genital mutilation has been delivering the Global Promise works to eliminate FGM through interventions in 17 countries where the practice is prevalent. In Nigeria, the agencies noted that 19.9 million girls and women have survived FGM and that 4.3 million girls are at risk of FGM. Dr. Nkiru Bokwe is a gender specialist who maintained that the age-long practice rooted in gender inequality and power imbalances is a violence that harms girls' bodies, dims their future, and endangers their lives.
The practice is largely done when women are children, and therefore they have no say. Most of the practice in Nigeria, as the NDHS data has shown, men, women and girls undergo FGM below the age of 5, majority of the women and girls. So you cannot even, it is irregular even to begin to think about consent in this case. And for older women who have FGM performed on them as a rite of passage, some of them don't give consent. I know particularly of somebody who, when she was having her first baby, and because of that, she's now suffering the ick, as to say, of her family and her relations and her husband. And she's also, she's also, you could say that her marriage also is under attack, so to say. So nobody subjects herself willingly to pain, to harm. Do you know that FGM is painful? FGM is harmful. FGM has no social benefits whatsoever. And you know that the human rights of persons also include the right to be free from torture, to the right to bodily integrity. So if a girl or a woman has to give consent to what happens to her body, and at that age, and if a girl is being caught, there is no issue of consent here. Because even the age, at that age, she cannot give consent. What does she know? What does consent mean? As a matter of fact.
Similarly, Police Public Relations Officer, Osun State Command, SP Yemisi Opalola, warned that anyone caught in the act will face the full wrath of the law. She enjoined the public to desist from the practice of female genital mutilation and protect the girl child.
Female genital prohibition has been domesticated even in Osun State. If you don't know, it has been prohibited. Anybody that is found doing that has gone against the law, and it is punishable. That person is going to face the wrath of the law, and that's why I'm telling you. And there is no gain. It's you that is thinking that there is gain. But for us, and for every right-thinking person, you will see that there is no gain in it. Please stop doing it. And if you see anybody planning to do it, not when they have already done it, anybody that is planning to do it, before they start it, please intimate us of the information.
The respondents spoke on the need for boys and men to collaborate with the women for the total elimination of the harmful practice. Oluchi Amuda, OSBC News.
Yes, that is the convenient spot to draw curtain on today's edition of Dateline. The production assistant is Abdul Jalil at DBC. Babatunde Bolatito is my name, saying good night.